Have we got everything covered now? We got to be able to talk about something besides Raw. Oh, what about the fucking Michael Jackson has made a comeback?
While I was recovering in bed, I went to see Twitter. I hadn't looked at Twitter in a couple of days, and I was alarmed by the amount of people that had sent me a clip of a Brazilian Michael Jackson impersonator wrestler doing dance moves and DDTs. I didn't know what I was seeing.
Well, it's the reason why that more people see these clips than actually see real wrestling events is because it's fucking stupid. And somebody can devote 1 minute of their life while they're fiddling with their phone or whatever, instead of engaging in, something else constructive. They can just look at stupid shit that other people are doing, and it makes them feel better about themselves. And that's where, the Michael Jackson impersonator doing the moonwalk, or the guy jumping off the balcony at the mall, or whatever gets 15 million fucking views, which is why these knuckleheads do this shit. I don't remember a time in my life, and fair enough that it was not possible to videotape when I was a teenager, to video yourself and put it anywhere, right? That wasn't a thing that could happen. But if somebody had come up and said to me, Jim, I've got it, because I knew the TV camera, obviously, I've got a TV camera here, and I will film you doing something really stupid or risking seriously injuring yourself if you will do it, and then I will put it on TV all across the country and around the world where everybody can see it. Do you know what I would have said to that person? Why are you out of your fucking mind? Why would I fucking do that? And there's no money involved. Now, I will say, if somebody said, I'll give you $1 million to do something stupid or seriously, well, yeah, okay, then, but no, just for the idea that a lot of people are going to see it. No, because then you have been seen by a lot of people and judged to be a goddamn complete idiot. When you do stupid shit that either is just silly or stupid, or could seriously injure you, and anybody can see it coming, like the fucking tree chainsaw accidents, or the fucking, truck pulling the thing out of the creek fucking business that you see on funny videos. When you're doing something that could seriously injure yourself, fuck yourself up, make yourself look like a blithering fucking idiot, why do you want a lot of people to see that? Doesn't that go doesn't that contraindicate everything that you have been told since you were a child by your parents about not embarrassing yourself and doing stupid shit in front of people? I don't understand.
Did you have any thoughts on the work of the Michael Jackson impersonator?
I mean, it was a pretty good moonwalk. It was better than Michael Hayes.
Well, Michael Hayes didn't do a great moonwalk.
Well, that's, of course, Michael is as big as 3 Michael Jacksons. But
who was your favorite Michael Jackson inspired wrestler from that period, from the Thriller era? Because you had
how many were there?
You had the PYTs.
Okay.
That's a direct. They're wearing the red jackets and the one glove.
I thought you meant that we're moon dancing or Van Morrison inspired
who's your
wrestling.
Favorite Van Morrison
inspired wrestling. It's a marvelous night for a moon dance. The moonwalk was Michael Hayes, because he was he wanted so bad to be cool when Southern Rock went out, and it was like, oh shit, what do I do now? But yeah, Michael is the only one did the moonwalk. Coco Ware and Norvell Austin were the PYTs, and they had the red jackets and the gloves and the, sparkles in the hair and everything, but they didn't wrestle like Michael Jackson. And they didn't look physically like him, because what you've got is a guy that looked like Michael Jackson, 125 fucking pounds, doing a moonwalk and then DDT-ing the fucking guy.
There was a job guy for the WWF in like 85. I don't think it was 84. It's probably 85. Michael Saxon. And it was an African-American guy with the one glove and a bedazzled jacket.
Oh, fucking hell.
Mark Reagan. Was Mark Reagan When he got to Memphis, it may have been different than when he was in Mid-South.
No, Mark Reagan was breakdancing, but he wasn't Michael Jackson. He was breakdancing and just shucking and jiving, as they used to say.
Okay. Who came out to Thriller?
Probably some monster in the Memphis territory.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, but I can't remember who.
But anyway, the point is, yes, there was some Michael Jackson influence in the ring outfits in some cases, but because that became a fashion and more people than Michael Jackson were doing that. But no, they never actually fucking looked like Michael Jackson, 120 pounds, or wrestled like Michael Jackson, or whatever the fuck. And everybody wanted to. What can I say? It's a stupid fucking phony. But now they got stupid phony wrestling in Bolivia as well as here in America or wherever that was.
Let me stop you right there. This is news to me also because I'm Googling it while you're talking about it. Apparently this was not in Brazil. Apparently this may have been in Las Vegas.
What? Well, how did we get Brazil?
Someone tweeted that. I saw that too. Brazil,
Las Vegas, same thing. What the fuck? It doesn't matter anymore, does it? Because you can see everything. That's the thing. As a matter of fact, Bobby Fulton reminded me of this the other day when I talked to him. The Midnight Express were booked against the Fantastics in Carrizo Springs, Texas for world-class wrestling. And we drove, it was South Texas. I'm going to say it was 20, 30 miles from the Mexican border. Way over and out in the middle of nowhere. I think we went to San Antonio and turned right. But there was no major city for a long way. And they'd booked this. It was one of the South Texas towns they used to run. They had a promoter down there. What was his name at that time? Maybe it was Fred Barron. Anyway, they would find these spot shows, and we had $100 guarantees each to go down to these fucking towns. But we're talking 400 to 500 miles each way from Dallas. And so that's a 1,000-mile round trip drive to go make $100. Or you can fly Southwest and you could fly to San Antonio, which was only 300 from Dallas, or you could fly to Corpus Christi, which was like 450, or you could fly down to Harlingen, which was way down there. But on some of these spot shows, you'd have to fly into San Antonio on some of these spot show South Texas towns that didn't have an airport and drive or whatever. But then and even though Southwest back then was cheap, you've spent $80 on a round trip airline ticket on Southwest to get you somewhere down there, $40 each way. But then you got to buy a hotel and it's going to be $50, $60 even in those days. And then you've also got to get a rental car or whatever the fuck. So a lot of them, me and Bobby and Dennis would just drive, and we're like, oh, fuck it. Because at least we're working Dallas on Monday and Fort Worth on Friday after working Louisiana. So there's 30-mile round trips 2 days a week. So what the fuck? So we drive down to Carrizo Springs, Texas, and we're getting into what appears to be a town, just barely. And they had told us we're going to be dressing and meeting or whatever, however they phrased it, at the such and such motel on the side of the road. It's not like a Holiday Inn Express. It's like the fucking Carrizo Springs Motel. We pull into this thing. It's a 1-story job with the, doors open out in the parking lot. And they've got a room for the baby faces and a room for the fucking heels, because that's our dressing rooms. We haven't seen the building yet. And I'm like, oh, fuck, this is not. And besides that, the whole card consisted of, I think Rip Oliver was on the show, I believe, that night. So Rip Oliver against a baby face. One of the midnight, I think it was Dennis that night, in a single match against one of the Fantastics, which I believe was Bobby Fulton. A Von Erich against either Chris or Gino. May have been Gino was down there that night. And then the Midnight Express versus the Fantastics. And your referee, Rick Hazard. So fucking 10 guys, right? So 5 in each room. We're just dressing. We're not sleeping there. And they say, just as soon as you get ready, we're going to put you in this van and take you down to the building. Okay, well, where is it? Oh, it's 2 or 3 miles. Okay, all right. They put us in this van. I'm carrying the racket. I'm fucking got my suit on. The boys in their gimmicks and everything. And we drive out of whatever town that existed here. And we're driving down this road in the middle of nowhere. And suddenly, it's like 2 or 3 or 4 miles down the road, and suddenly on the right-hand side, we see off in this just vacant field And it wasn't a paved field. It was a dirt field. But since it had been raining there, it was a field of mud. And there was a big metal building like the farmers put up, when they've got all their farm equipment and everything. And one of those big metal, you could park a private plane in those fucking things. Big metal building with a roof and a big tin shed, right? On a concrete foundation. And on the front of this, and by the way, there were boards because people were already starting to come up and they were walking into the building and they had put boards down so the people could walk on the boards instead of having to slop through the mud. So there people are tiptoeing on these boards, and the sign on the front of the shed was painted with a can of spray paint on a bed sheet, a white bed sheet. And it was supposed to say, World Class Wrestling Tonight, but they started out too big and it became World Class Wrestling 2, and then NIGHT was on a right-hand slant down the right-hand side of the fucking sheet. And they pulled the fucking van around the back and they let us get out and slop through a little bit of mud and go in a back door where there was a place they'd set up a curtain where we could all sit so the people wouldn't stare at us. And I would say that night there were approximately 100 to 110 people in the building. I tried to do a head count because I was bored at one point, but, people kept walking around. But 100, 110. I guarantee you the sum total of people that spoke English in that building was the guys on the card. And basically a bunch of Mexican Americans who lived wherever the fuck that we were, because this was way out. I didn't see any vehicles, and we had driven 3 or 4 miles from this. They just walked there from somewhere. And there was no way, there was a ring announcer, and I think they knew who we were kind of from TV, but nobody could speak any English. Nobody, and they were not really wanting to react at first because we went out and did the captain's match, and they were just all kind of sitting there because they weren't sure maybe they weren't sure whether they were supposed to attract attention to themselves because they may have been illegal. Who knows? But the only fucking police, the only security in the whole place is Rosie, who is one of the San Antonio Black Hat security guys. World Class always had, if you go back and watch the tapes, their security guys had the black cowboy hats on. And if there was a couple guys that were regular in Dallas and they did the Sportatorium every week. And then, Rosie was one of the regular ones in San Antonio. And the story was that he had been a Texas Ranger. And the old saying, back when they had a riot somewhere at one of the campuses in Texas, and they said, we need to send in the Texas Rangers. And they said, nope, one riot, one Ranger. Well, we said one riot, one Rosie, because this fucking guy, he'd been in the San Antonio in the matches so long at the old Coliseum there, the Joe and Harry Freeman Coliseum, that he could tell when the heels are coming, going back to the locker room, he's walking them back. Somebody comes up with their hand in their pocket, he snatches that fucking right arm and knocks them out with his fucking right hand because he knew they were coming out with a knife. Or he'd snatch the fucking knife with the left hand and knock them out with the right hand. Or fucking come out with a goddamn slapjack or whatever. And he was just like a human goddamn wrecking ball to drop people so the heels could get back to the fucking dressing room. So anyway, we started warming them up a little bit with the captain's match. That's how I figured out they didn't speak English, because whatever they were yelling at me, all of them didn't have any English in it. And I'm a little nervous that we've only got Rosie there, but there's only 100 of them, so I figure it's kind of even. But then he knew that I was kind of a little nervous because we're out in the middle of nowhere here. And, no legitimate authorities of any kind. I don't remember who was running the box office for The Office, but it's just literally one security guard. There's no local promoter on the fucking scene. There's no cops of any kind. There's 100 Mexicans that we're expected to piss off and us. So anyway, we go out for the tag match, and it's going to get a little feisty now. And plus the people have already seen the whole show. So the old rule of thumb was if somebody was going to hit the ring or do something, they were going to do it in the last match, because then if they get kicked out or arrested, at least they've seen the whole show. So I'm just sitting in the chair because I'm like, what the fuck? I'm doing fucking nothing, right? Because why? And we got 500 miles to go back to Dallas tonight. So it gets a quiet spot, and Rosie looks at me because he's sitting right next to me in another chair, keep an eye on me. He looks at me, leans over like I'm talking to him, and then comes back and in a loud voice says, Cornette, don't you dare call these people wetbacks. Ah, that's the word in English they knew. They all started fucking, rah, rah, rah. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Like, I just want to have some fun here. It's too boring. He didn't give a fuck, right? Oh, Jesus Christ. And then the Fantastics beat us, and we ran back to the fucking van and ran back to the hotel and then drove back to fucking... That was not the night that Dennis Condrey blew up the engine in my car trying to get back from... That was Corpus Christi. For 100 miles an hour for that long on the interstate will blow up a fucking engine in a goddamn Datsun. I'll tell you that. But anyway, that's where we went. What were we talking about? Michael Jackson?
We were talking about the Michael Jackson wrestler. I don't know how we ended up here.
Well, it's your fault.
No, what made you go to that story from Michael
You'll
Jackson?
have to run the tape back and fucking listen. I'm sure it made perfect sense the way I went into it.
Did you listen to Thriller on the way home?
I'm sure we did. There was nothing else to listen to back in those days on the radio.
Oh, that's not true.
No, actually, when we moved to Louisiana in '84, the Eagles were the hottest band in the land down there.
How big was Van Halen? I know they played it on Mid-South, obviously Jump with the Rock and Roll Express, but in '84 in Louisiana, was Van Halen as big there as they were in other parts of the country?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, because MTV was national at that point, and even we joked that, Louisiana was 10 years behind the times in those days because, like I said, the Eagles was the hottest band on the radio, but they, at the same time, they pretty much had the top 40 playlists and everything. I'm not saying the people were following along, but in the media and on television and radio, yes, they were as hot as they were everywhere. It's like the old Steve Allen line. Do they get your program in Cleveland? Well, they see it in Cleveland, but I'm not sure they get it. Some of the folks in Louisiana, I'm not sure were up with the fucking moonwalk, and I'm not sure they were up with Neil Armstrong's moonwalk by the mid-1980s.